Hello and welcome to Loose Pool, the official podcast from Matchroom Pool, and the first one of 2022. We've got two special guests to discuss Matchroom's recent announcement of the inauguration of the Matchroom Nineball Pool World Rankings sanctioned by the World Pool Billiard Association. As always, I'm delighted to be joined by Emily Frazer, and I'm also delighted to be joined by Niels Feijen. Niels, how are you? How was your Christmas?
Yeah, good. Thanks, buddy. How was yours?
Yeah, good, nice and quiet. I say nice and quiet. I was with the family, but then I was doing the darts for the whole month. But I'm delighted to be back on the pool. Emily, it's always great to see you. Are you better after your month with not feeling too great after the Moscone?
Yeah, I got COVID, and it was like a bad case of COVID. I think because I'd had my booster jab, it obviously just drove my immune system down. But then I think my dad felt sorry for me and encouraged me to go on a family trip to Barbados. So I had a lovely week out there. So I have no complaints from me. I mean, all I want to do now is just hear the waves going and eat lobster for lunch every day. So it was kind of my relaxing before the announcement yesterday. So really, really good here.
Brilliant. Well, look, knowing you like I do, Emily, even though you were on holiday, you'd be writing notes, planning things as you're walking around the beach. That's the way you are. You'll never change. And obviously, huge news at the start of the week. You know, you said to me last year when we were talking about getting into the sport, I have huge plans for this sport, and I'm working on them, and you might see them next year. And I have to say, Emily, it looks like you've delivered by the announcement yesterday.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. Obviously, we've been planning. It's been in the making for half a year now, and it's been very nicely coupled with Barry's semi-retirement, because where he's taken a step back from quite a lot of things and put his trust into obviously the different leaders that are at Matchroom. He loves pool. He has such a passion for it, like he does with the snooker, and him starting with Steve Davis. And he has that passion there, and he's willing to take some risks and to take a punt on a few things. And I think combined with my passion for it, we've just been bouncing ideas off of one another for the past 6 months and thinking, right, what can we do here? And I think that's why that video that we released yesterday was so exciting, because we filmed that just after our final meeting about the Nineball World Rankings, and just showing him the rebrand that we done and talking all through it. And there were still so many questions that we had to, think about before we announced it. And we came to the decision that, look, we just got to get this out there, and we've got to think we've tried to cover everything. And we understand that, it's going to be a bumpy road ahead, but we're prepared for it. But it's just been so exciting. I mean, yesterday in the office, everyone was there early, and we all sat, on this big one desk, like a hot desk, and we're just bouncing questions off one another, making sure everything was all in line. And we went a little bit later than what we thought about, because there were a few, we were getting the Euro Tour on board still, and we were waiting for things to come through. And then all of a sudden it was like half hour before our announcement, and it just went like really silent in the office, and everyone's kind of sat back. I was super nervous. I was sweating. And then it's like 5-2, and everyone's just quiet. And then the announcement goes, and everyone just sits back, and they're all looking at one another. And then a buzz just went in the office, because I think we're all so excited. But it's obviously it's a huge announcement. And then everyone was just super happy. Everyone stayed to see how the comments were coming through. We're all sort of joking, like one guy replied on Instagram saying, why would you even write the word Nineball? And it's just like, it's quite funny just, reading those kind of comments. And it just seems that, I mean, it's great news for the sport. It's what we've wanted to do. We knew that this is what we had to do. We knew that we couldn't just keep adding events to our roster. There was no point in doing it. Obviously, we're a business at the end of the day, and pool's not up there with the other sports that we do, like the darts and the snooker. It's just not to that level. And we can't just keep, throwing money into new events without showing a further commitment into it. And so we knew that the rankings and the vital part of this whole announcement is to get others on board. And we knew that was the main part. And to have that support from the other promoters is just fantastic. I mean, I just come off the phone to Chad Charlo at Diamond Billiards, and we were just discussing things coming up in the year. And I said, look, how's Derby Classic? How's the planning going? And he was just like, well, I was trying to watch all the announcement yesterday. And he's really excited. And he said, look, I just said, thanks for believing in us. Thanks for supporting us. And he said, we trust you. We know that, like, me and Chad speak a lot quite often, and he shares a lot of ideas that we do, and he wants to do a lot of things for the sport as well, just as an individual. And so it's just great that we've had the support around us as well as the players, because they're the ones that say, wow, you know, this is great news, and we believe in Matchroom, and we believe they're the ones to do it. So it's been really quite a whirlwind.
Brilliant. I mean, Niels, from a player's perspective, how excited are you with all this news?
I actually saw the schedule a few hours ago, and the first thing that surprised me was the length of it. It was like, it was so, I was like, it was so big. I was like, what am I even looking at here? There was tournaments here, and then there's this. And the first thing that popped out, of course, we were speaking about the UK Open, which is a massive event coming up. But then it also said, like, I was reading the European Open. I said, what is that even? That's another like new event on top of the UK Open, which is already a new event. So yeah, it got me excited. I said, this is really looking good. You know, that's what was missing from last year, where of course it was total chaos with COVID. There was the new event, the Championship League pool was starting up. We were really happy to be playing events, but there was no cohesion. There was no real ranking. I had no clue really where I was, how it was working. And now really with this schedule already, like beginning of January, it's like, boom, it's out there. And there's not one player on the planet that can second guess what's going on and what's coming up. You know what's out there now, what you have to play for. And I also heard, which is really exciting, if I can say this, is that it's not based on points, but it's based on the prize money. So I asked somebody, like, how does it work with the points? And they said, no, it's just the prize money that you take from each event that gets added up, and that is your ranking. I think that's also really cool. I've never seen that before. So yeah, from a player's point of view, I think it's really exciting news. I think some of the coolest news we've had in years. You know, I come way back from the IPT times. That was, of course, massive. Played 3 IPTs, biggest thing I played up to now, and that crashed. So seeing this schedule, it really has that same aura and feeling of that massiveness and glamour that could be awaiting us.
Yeah, Emily, people will be asking, because there does seem to be a separation with different organisations and Euro tours, and some players being in America, some players being in Europe. How is this all going to come together? Is that still in discussion? How can you see it evolving?
Well, just first of all, we were going to remove Niels from the rankings, so then he could come and be a pundit at all of our Matchroom events. But we got a little bit of pushback about that, and we weren't sure. Thought Niels might send us to court over it. No, I'm only joking. Look, it was obviously quite a scary thing to open this up to other promoters, and the amount of other organisers that I've spoken to in the last couple of months, you know, we spoke to a lot of people who are now, I mean, my phone was like blowing up this morning from people now saying, right, I want to be a part of this, because, you know, I get it. Some organisers see it, you know, as a bit of a scare, like then, you know, they're not too sure how this was going to go down, and probably wanted to see whether we fell flat on our face or it went down really well. But the way that this is going to work is that, yeah, it's year one, it's 2022. We've got the Derby City Classic, the Nineball event on board. We've got the International Open, and we've got the 5 Euro Tour events on. Now, they all came with the announcement yesterday because they're all solid and they're all confirmations. They're going ahead. There's still 4 other USA events that I've been having discussions with probably the past 3 weeks that are all in the pipeline. And I'm 18% sure that they're going to come to the schedule within the next week. but we don't like to announce something unless it's 100% confirmed. So I think that a lot of the fans or players that see it as quite European heavy because of the 5 Euro Tour events and our UK events, they will soon be very pleasantly surprised when they see the likes of the NBL coming on, and third-party USA promoters who hold other events over in the US. So I think that will be quite a good surprise for everyone. It's quite hard to standardize all of the different rules for Nineball. That's one major challenge that we found, is that at the beginning we were like, these are all the things that we want to standardize. We want to standardize the breaking, we want to standardize the pockets, we want to make sure that, you know, the payout structure is good for the players and it's fair, and we also want to standardize the shot clock and things like that. And I think we put all of this down, and then as we started speaking to promoters, it was like, you know, well, this actually can't happen because we don't have this in place, because, you know, we don't have the money to put onto that. So we have to understand that, because obviously our productions are obviously very different. So we've tried to be very flexible for this year. Things like the 3-point rule, we don't have that in our Matchroom events, because we have hand racking, and we have other, you know, we've added in about players not inspecting the rack. So it's a lot more easier for us to not have the 3-point rule, whereas other events struggle with that because of the other elements in place. So we've agreed that for 2022, we're going to be flexible. They can try and change to what works for their tournament. But coming into 2023, which is the conversations are starting to happen now, is we're really, really going to hammer down on trying to standardize this. One of the main points for us was the tournaments have to use our seeding structure. So because they have to respect the rankings. And that's one thing that the players need. You know, if they're going to earn ranking points, they need to be using our seeding for these other promoted events. So as we come into 2023, the players will start seeing a lot more consistency. This year, it's going to be a bit of a rocky road, but from next year, they're going to start seeing the same time shot clock. They're going to start seeing the same breaking pattern. It's all up in the air about the 1 or the 9 on the spot. I don't think anyone really knows. We've done a lot of different researches. There's different opinions, and we've all agreed that we're going to see how this year plays out and have another discussion about it for 2023. Because the whole point of standardizing the rules is to create consistency for players. So we need to ensure that it's competitive, and it's hard, because I said it yesterday, the competition is getting tougher, and that's brilliant for us. But we also need to create an easier understanding of the game. If you have 1 week where people are tuning into the Moscone Cup, and we have the 1 on the spot, no 3-point rule, for instance, and the players are going down on the break, they look at that and then they tune into another pool event, and then they have the 3-point rule. It's very confusing to a viewer. So we must keep that consistent, and we must expand our viewership and make it easy for people to understand that. You know, if players throw a dartboard, everyone knows the rules to it. And that was part of the main thinking behind our rebrand as well. Pool is such a global sport with so many disciplines, which all the disciplines are fantastic. But the reason we've gone to this new rebrand of Nineball is because when we're trying to talk to sponsors or broadcasters about pool, they don't really know what it is. There's too many disciplines. There's too many factors to it. So as part of our push is we rebrand everything Nineball, and we get Nineball out there. That's why obviously our main factor is the Nineball rankings. If you come on board as a ranking event, it's Nineball only. We must push forward one discipline in order to grow the entire sport. Doesn't mean the other disciplines can't happen or can't be respected, but there must be a commercial form of the discipline in this sport. And we know that Nineball is the one to do it with.
Niels, how good is it to see more structure and a real motivation, like going forward. Okay, this tournament didn't work out well, but I've got this one in 2 weeks, which is on the same strand now. Is that something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, definitely. I think I remember also Jason saying, that's the first thing that pops into mind at the press conference for the Mosconi. He was open-minded. He could speak his mind, and he said the one thing that was missing for the sport was like a structured thing. I hear Emily saying that now also, like, if you want to sell the sport to promoters, they don't know what it is. There's too many games. There's 8-ball, 10-ball, one pocket, straight pool. So I can fully agree with this 9-ball go ahead. You know, you want to fully go for 9-ball. I think that's a really positive thing, especially for so many events. The one thing that was interesting for me, if just a question, because I play, of course, the Euro Tour events. And we've been playing there, like you say, with 9 on the spot and a 3-point rule for many, many years, because the break was getting too easy. Plus, the pockets on the European circuit are slightly bigger than on the Matchroom tournaments, which I find interesting because I like the size of the pockets with the Matchroom tournaments, with better quality of players. The equipment should be tougher. The break should be tougher. So how do you go about negotiating that and talking about those rules for 2023 with those promoters? I was just curious.
Well, I think our aim is to make it as competitive as possible. And our aim is to figure out whether that 1 on the spot or the 9 on the spot is actually more competitive. And I think no one really knows, and it needs a lot of looking into this year. One of our regulations that we put forward was pocket sizes to be in between 4 and 4.5 inches. So to start off with, that's what we've suggested. I know the Euro Tour have had obviously their rules for a long time, and I think that's probably why it took them a little while to come on board and to, you know, because everyone has to take kind of take a bit of a risk to come on board, and they have to obviously potentially lose a certain factor as to what they've been used to in order to all come together, because everyone's been doing it all different for so long. So they've come on board with the understanding that in the future, we all do have to follow a consistent pattern. Now, and I'm not going to lie, I've not really seen this before. It's due to our open events and using so many different table manufacturers that it's actually really hard to keep a consistent pocket size across the different events and the different manufacturers. You know, some people may have different ways to make the tables play tougher instead of just the pocket, and it's more to do with the shelf. And right. I've learned so much in the last year. So the reason why we've now said for this year it's between 4 and 4.5 is that it gives a parameter to the promoters to say, look, this is what we're looking at now. And even I touched base on it yesterday on the pool player podcast, is that our Whirlpool Masters event is totally different to a US Open or a UK Open event. The top 24 players are playing in the Whirlpool Masters, and it should be the toughest. It should be 4-inch pockets. Then you're looking at a US Open event and you've got 256 players, and you're opening this huge event to upcoming players coming through, and you want to make it more manageable and you want to make it a different type of event. That's why we have to, at the moment, have the parameters whilst we figure it out. So all of the promoters that have come on board understand we need to come to an agreement. And I hope that in 3 years' time, and I say 3 years, I don't want to say 5, that everyone is working to 4.25. That's what I hope. But it takes a bit of time for that to happen. You know, if we just said to everyone now, right, all pockets have to be 4.25, we wouldn't have anyone on board, because it's not the sensible way to do it. You have to ease everyone in. So I think it's just a matter of patience until we kind of get there. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, I think pocket size is interesting, because I think on the Euro Tour we play 4.25. I think a lot of USA tournaments are 4.25, and I think the Matchroom now is 4-inch, right? The last few events.
Yeah, we've been 4, yeah. But
it's getting close. It's in the ball. Everything's in the ballpark. It's not 4.5. 4.5 would be like really big already. So it's that's already pretty close, I think.
Yeah.
So one of the keys here is rankings, and everyone's looking forward to talking about the world number one, world number two going forward. But delighted to say we can talk to world number one now, Albin Ouschan and Skyler Woodward. They've been speaking to Matt Lynch.
Albin, it's a pleasure to speak to you as our first Matchroom Nineball World number one. How does that sound? How did it feel when you saw that announcement?
Yeah, of course, it's an awesome feeling. It's a new ranking system. I can't wait to kick off this year with the first tournament for the new system. So I'm totally ready.
When you found out that news, obviously it came with the news that we've got this schedule now that includes a lot more events. And with that, it means there's plenty more opportunities for players like yourself to really push on and know your year before it's even really started. Does that make a massive difference to you as a player, knowing that you've got, say, the Derby coming up that counts towards ranking points, and then you've got things like Premier League Pool in February, and further down the line, obviously the European Open, which is one of our new events as well, all these different events that contribute now towards the rankings?
Yeah, of course. I mean, now you can really plan the year ahead, because that was always one of the biggest issues we had in pool, that sometimes like a month or 2 months before, you didn't even know where you're at in March or whatever. So really now you can plan the year and prepare for it.
When you look ahead to your year, obviously last year you said was possibly your best year to date. You said the cherry on the cake was winning the Mosconi Cup. Do you pinpoint anything in particular when you look at that calendar ahead?
Well, I'm looking ahead, of course, for the UK Open. It's going to be tremendous, I think. Also, it's like US Open, a huge tournament, 256 players, which is always tough. But I kind of love those tournaments. You play many matches and there's no jet lag at the UK Open like at the US Open. So I'm really looking forward to this. Of course, the Premier League, it's a different format this year. I don't know if I like it or not, because I won the Championship League of Pool last year. But it's a very special tournament. I love the format, and I can't wait to play that.
Premier League Pool, you'll be pleased to know there's actually less matches this year that you'll need to win to take that money home. And for somebody like yourself, I know you'll be looking at that with the fact that you're guaranteed at least $2,500 as well for players, perhaps not for yourself being so close to the UK, but for those that may want to travel to events. It must be a difference, the fact there's some guaranteed money there as well.
No, of course. I mean, when your expenses are covered, it's easier to fly anywhere. It doesn't matter where it is. So that's a huge point. And yeah, I can't wait, because it's like, is it 20 players or 16 players? 16 and 16 of the top players in the world, and it's going to be a tough one for sure.
Last year, you obviously won both the International Open 9-ball and you obviously won the World Pool Championship, the big one. That's coming up again in April. Where are your plans setting out ahead of that, and what are your plans? I'm assuming the hope is to obviously retain that title.
Yeah, it's hard to say that it's going to be easy to be in top four again, because it's such a tough field with so many good players. Some just had to stay at home because of COVID. So I think it's going to be way tougher this year. And well, if I do a top 8 result at the end, I think I'm still happy about it. But it's all about my performance. If my performance is there, everything can happen.
When you look at the calendar as well and see key milestones in the calendar, I mean, at the moment you are the world number one. And with that means that as it stands, you would obviously be in the Mosconi Cup in Vegas come December. But obviously a lot will depend on the results this year. How important is it for you to get off on the right note at the Derby City Classic coming up?
Yeah, I mean, Derby City, I've never been there. It's my first time there. I think it's about like 300 players, and you can buy in again if you're out. So I don't know really the rules for the racking and everything. It's going to be tough for sure, because there's also a lot of action, a lot of players I never saw or heard of. So I think you got to win like 15 or 16 matches to win the title. Of course, it's a nice way to kick off the year. I'm expecting or hope for a good result there, and but I don't see myself like in the top 8 or top 4 at the Derby City, I believe.
You look at the calendar, and for the Matchroom events, there's $1.7 million in total prize fund. For somebody that's up and coming in the game, what would you really say to someone that might be considering turning to pool and perhaps entering some of these open competitions that are coming up?
Of course, I mean, for players who are not yet on the professional train, let's say, it's way easier to get on this train right now because pool is growing every year. Matchroom does an incredible job by bringing new tournaments to the calendar. So I think it's not a very tough call right now to say I'm trying to be professional right now, because you got so many great tournaments to prove or to see where you're at. And of course, I'm not the youngest anymore, but I still think I got like 10, 15 years ahead, and I hope it's still growing every year. So I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in the next 3 to 5 years.
Skyler, it's great to catch up with you for the first time after the Mosconi Cup. How have you been?
I've been good, you know, just traveling for the holidays. Really haven't done a whole lot other than that. So
obviously since the Mosconi Cup, you heard bits at the Mosconi about Matchroom's plans for 2022 and beyond. You've now seen those plans. What are your initial thoughts?
I think it's great, you know, Matchroom pretty much taking over, you know, Nineball, and having all the events and adding events every year is great. You know, it's going to push it, you know, even bigger. So I think it's amazing, you know, and having that many like ranking events for like world rankings for the players is great.
How much motivation did it give you when you saw your ranking at number 19 in the world to really push on this year and try and claim a few of those titles along the way?
Yeah, it motivates me because like I'm starting out lower than, I think last I looked on the ranking, I was like number 8. So at the end of the year or whenever it was, not long ago, but yeah, so now I want to push and get, you know, above number 8 at least. But obviously eyes are on number 1 always, but yeah, just want to, you know, push it, always try to progress and get better. So if I can just get past number 8, it's a plus for me.
The schedule for the Nineball events starts with the Derby, coming up very soon. Us Brits call it the Derby. It's an event you obviously know very well, snapping it off a few years ago. So you must be extra motivated now to head down there and hopefully do something very similar this time around and get to the top of those rankings early on for 2023.
Yeah, that'd be a nice win to start with, you know, start the year. And then obviously get all the points for the event. That would be nice. So yeah, I hope to win it again. It's since I was a kid, that's all I ever wanted was just, I wanted to win the Derby as a kid because they have the big banners up there. I always said I don't care about the money. I just want my picture up there. And then when I won it, it was like a dream come true because it was just one of my dreams as a kid. So it'd be nice to win it again.
When you look through that Nineball schedule that Matchroom released the other day, is there anything that stands out to you? Obviously, we've got the US Open, but it's joined by 2 other Open events in the UK Open and the European Open. Do they stand out to you, or does something like the Whirlpool Masters sort of flavour your appetite as well?
Yeah, I mean, I plan on playing at you know, at least all the big events. I don't know. Honestly, don't know how many events I'll be able to make it to, but I will be at, you know, all the biggest ones. So, and I'm really looking forward to it. I just looking forward to a big year, 2022. Looking to play a lot and really get out there.
The Mosconi Cup's back in Vegas in November/December at Bally's. For you, the events that happen across this year will contribute to the 2023 rankings, but with that also help decide and shape the Mosconi Cup team. There must already be for you that one eye on claiming your place back in the Mosconi Cup team as a 2-time MVP and obviously been so consistent over the last few years.
Yeah, that's #1 goal, overall for like a yearly goal, other than being ranked or something. Yeah, that's the #1 goal is to cinch my spot in the Mosconi Cup and try to do it early, where maybe I can take a break towards the end of the year if it's not a big event or something. I can take a break and know I've already got a spot. But yeah, just going to definitely try to make the Mosconi Cup because I want to be back and want to be on home soil. Try to get the cup back.
We've seen a few comments online about the Americans that obviously feature on the ranking. I'm sure from your perspective, obviously from ours, we hope that this is a motivation for players across the world, not just in America, to pick up their cues and play some pool. So if you were, say, 10 years younger, looking to take pool seriously, is something like this something that perhaps would help you make that decision to try and push on and make a living out of pool?
Yeah, it should motivate, a lot of other players, like, players that are, right there, but they haven't had a chance like at the Mosconi Cup or something, but they feel like they got points events. So now they can, to a lot of people might be like shocking the world or whatever, but to them it wouldn't be, and to some people it wouldn't be. But if they can get in, play the points events and get in by points, then there they go. They can like shock the world, make the team, and they don't have to worry about getting a wild card.
So what you're saying there is that basically it could make a massive difference to where the team heads.
Yeah, for sure. I think it motivates a lot of other people, because a lot of people won't. They're like, I'm not going to play the big event because it's wild cards and I'm not going to get a chance. So now they can make the coach where, you ain't got a chance. You don't have the choice but to pick me because I made it by points. So I think, it'll motivate a lot of people to get out and play this year for sure.
And for you, obviously, you've still got a lot of years ahead of you. People don't realise how long you've been playing pool, but actually how young you are as well. So for somebody like you, it must be pretty exciting to look ahead and think, well, if this is where we're at now in 2022, what could be in 5 years' time?
Oh, yeah. Still young, so got a lot of pool left in me. So, I don't, in 5 years, no telling what's going to be on the list and what tournaments are going to be out there. It's going to be, come 5 years, it's going to be huge, I'm sure.
Skyler, it's been a pleasure catching up with you today, and I'm sure we'll see you very soon.
All right, yep, see you.
So, of course, it was a fantastic 2021 for Albin Ouschan. He won the World Pool Championship, the International Open, the Mosconi Cup. He also won the Predator Series, didn't he, at the start of the year as well, the Championship League, which is now the Premier League. I mean, such incentives for these players. Skyler was fantastic in the Mosconi Cup. Emily, do you think these are big events? And you're going to hear the players now saying, I want to be back at #1. I want to get in the top 6. Is that what you're aspiring to do here?
Yeah, of course. And the Mosconi Cup that's the different beast. That's what everyone wants to be on. I mean, it takes individuals like all three of us all sitting here. It would have taken us a week to come down from the event, because it's like a drug to people. You sleep probably 4 hours a night. You're running the event off of adrenaline, because it has that buzz and that excitement. Everyone, I don't care what anyone says, even if they publicly say, no, I don't want to make the Mosconi Cup. Everyone wants to be in the Mosconi Cup team, because that's the event that turns you into a celebrity. So the brilliant part about the rankings is that now there's a clear structure of qualification to get into that event. It's been so unfair in the past, and we've looked at wildcards during the pandemic, which is fair enough. But the reason why we've had wildcards for Team USA in previous years is because there's no structure to even set it up. There was no clear organisation in order to set up a qualification system. And it was even the same for Europe. I think it got the European rankings that we did for the Mosconi like 4 or 5 years back. It got neglected quite a bit. And we were noticing that there were events on there that weren't to our standards. And we shouldn't have been expecting players to travel to those in order to get Mosconi Cup points. now we understand more from a player perspective, I think, because we now run these open events. We understand things a little bit more, and we're trying to think more from a player point of view, because we've gone from 3 events with other, you know, sporting events alongside that, and we now have 8. And so our involvement in pool is getting a lot bigger. So we're looking more from a player perspective. Now they have a clear structure to get into that Moscone Cup. But also the beautiful thing about it is that you're looking at the World Pool Masters, and we tried to set up like a seeding structure and a way of qualifying for the event, but it wasn't too fair, because it would be the Moscone Cup MVP would get into the World Pool Masters, but the Moscone Cup is an invitational event. So it all just didn't really work out. But now the top 20 on the rankings get into the World Pool Masters, and those 8 are seeded into the first round. So of course, everyone wants to get world number 1. They want to get within that top rankings, because now all of that seeding is being used in all of the events. You go to the US Open, which is a brutal event for any player, you know, it's 6 days long. You need to be part of that high seeding in order to get that advantage. The World Pool Championship, the top 16 get seeded into the different 16 groups. You want that advantage. And now players can actually see all of that, and they can see, right, well, I can get seeded into that event. I can actually get qualification into the Moscone Cup. And then I'm rising in the ranks. And Niels touched base on it earlier, prize money won. There's concern about it might be too European heavy, for instance, but because it's on prize money won, it means that it can be fairer rather than a point structure, because the point structure just didn't really work. And we noticed that when we did the European rankings. It's just clear as day now, it's prize money won. So we're going to see how that develops. But it just creates transparency. I mean, everything is all on the website. I think it took people a little bit of a while to see actually who the top 32 was, because that was all on our website ready. So these rankings is just, for me, if I was looking at this as a player, it's motivation, because you're thinking, right, okay, this is pretty good for me. I've got a clear pathway, and it's all on order of merit. You play well, you get awarded for it. And it's now going to be the best of the best, because all of the players are going to want to compete in the events. And this is even more motivation for other organisers to come on board, because now their fields will be full, which is what we all want. I mean, look at Kelly Fisher. She's under as number 40, where from the 8 from the top up. She's looking at this, and she wasn't initially thinking of ever going to the Derby City Classic. I don't know if she's going to now go, if it's a little bit late notice. But a lot of the women in the sport, I mean, this sport is one of probably few sports where you can put men against women, which is fantastic. She's now looking at that, and along with the other top female players, and saying, well, as part of an official ranking event for the Nineball World Rankings, they all must be open to all ambitious players. I mean, it's motivation for everyone.
Yeah, Niels, I was going to ask you about that, what Emily's just touched upon. Does that just change your 2022 calendar? Because I remember talking to you at the US Open, and you said, I'm going to skip that one, then I'm going to go to that, go home for that one. Does this give you absolute structure here and clarity in terms of what ones you're going to really aim for?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, I have to look at the calendar a bit more, but you can easily spot out the big monsters that you want to attend and that you want to be in. So you gotta play the other ones to qualify via the ranking now. We just have to get our heads around it, but it's clear as daylight that the more you play, the more points you can get, or money you can gather. So you get points and seeded, and it's accumulating for your seeding for the future events. So I think it's like Emily says, it's a really nice, positive, boosting concept. I think there's not one professional player that has any doubts about it now, even after just coming out one day later. So I think, I think it's exciting. You know, we're listening to Emily a few minutes now, and you know she's really good at that, at hyping it up. So I'm getting ready to get out there. I'm not gonna go to the Derby, but I'm having second thoughts now. Booking a late nighter. But no, it's. I think it's great. You know, I think that's, like I said, that's really what's been missing, and it can also be demotivating. Like if you don't have any structure, you don't have any rankings. It's sometimes you think, you know, what am I doing it for? I'm just doing one event, and then is it a ranking event? And then, oh, maybe it wasn't a ranking event. But this event was counting, right? No, it's that one, and it's like, and now it's like, boom, it's there. And you know, if you're playing bad, it's you. It's not the ranking, it's not the schedule, it's you. And that's what I like about this thing. Is
the Euro Tour inclusion a real plus for you, Niels?
I wouldn't say big plus, but I mean, I play all of them, so that's a good thing. I think, I mean, the Euro Tour events nowadays are so cutthroat. That's why I was asking Emily also, because I would love to see the Euro Tour pockets go tighter, because the level out there is brutal. The format is brutal, but I still think the equipment is too easy, and I think they should make it tougher. The players are good enough to handle that. I mean, there's 40 guys that can win those events. You know, I mean, if you look at all the winners from the last years, there's so many different players. Of course, there's guys that are very consistent, but you have so many players now that can win the Euro Tour. So I think, like Emily says, and also before her, I remember Barry Berman from the former US Open. He always said back then, the US Open, you have the best players, and they should play on the toughest equipment. And I also feel the better the level gets of players, you got to make it tougher. You got to make the break tougher. That's, of course, for 23 is a different topic, but you have to make it tougher on the players, because it's getting sometimes a bit too easy. So I'm really looking forward to this, and yeah, it's almost starting already.
Emily, have you been given any questions on your social media channels over the last couple of days that you wanted to say on here? Because I know you get a lot of questions and you always answer them when you can. Was there anything you wanted to clarify, or anything anyone has asked you which you want to put out on here?
Yes, I think someone asked me to call Tom Cruise and get him to make another movie about Paul. I was like, yeah, let me just get Tom Cruise's number on my phone. I mean, if I had Tom Cruise's number, I'd be getting him to fund the Paul. I mean, to be fair, I always find this stuff a little bit overwhelming. So I purposely, when I got home last night, I haven't really been on socials on that side of things, but I think there can't be any negativity from this announcement, because all it does is it gives everyone a massive kick up the arse, because it gives the players a good kick up the arse, as in, you've now got structure, you've now got a future to look forward to. This is what we're aiming to do. Yeah, we might not be there right now, but this is our plans and this is what we're looking to do. Now we want to set and build a career for you guys. I mean, look what we've done. Well, I say we've got Matchroom have done with darts and snooker. We've done those things, and we've got a basis to go off of. And obviously we learn a lot from those other sports. So we're trying to, you know, we're making a huge jump into this. And yeah, I understand that at the moment it's a bit UK, Europe based, but that's not our intention. I mean, I've just got a phone to the team in Russia about the Kremlin Cup. I mean, imagine we can add that to the schedule. So we're open to everyone to get in touch with us. I mean, it needs to be sensible. It has to be tournament regulations, and they have to be professional events. But this is just such good news for the professional side of the sport, because we couldn't even, you know, you look at the snooker rankings, you've got 128 snooker players on their rankings. We did the top 32 with a top up of 40. We would have really struggled to do a 128 ranking list. We would have really struggled to have real, you know, professional pool players on there. So we need to sort that professional side out. Yeah, everyone loves playing pool. You know, you go to the pool clubs, you go to pubs, and it's there. But at the moment, the players, they're not athletes. They, you know, if Niels walked down in London in Oxford Street, for instance, and walked down the street, he wouldn't get an autograph. I'm sorry, Niels, but it's the truth. Shane Van Bonen, he doesn't get noticed in London, but you put Michael Van Gerwen down the street and him walking along, people know who he is, and he's not like an old school legend like an Earl Strickland, for instance. If I went out and did a survey of name me the top 5 pool players, then Earl Strickland would be in there, Bustamante and Reyes. No one else really comes into the fold like now, current, you know, if you went and asked a lot of different age groups. So the players aren't to that status yet. And so that's what we need to be pushing, more of the same 9-ball events. That's why we've chosen 9-ball. That's why we're not opening it to the different disciplines. Otherwise, we would have just carried on with the WPA World Rankings. The WPA understand what we're trying to do. And we approached them and said, we need a clear ranking system for 9-ball. They were like, yeah, we know this needs to happen, because we can't use their rankings. It doesn't make sense. You can't award someone who's won a 10-ball event to get onto a 9-ball Mosconi Cup. It doesn't make sense, and it's not professional. So everyone knows this is what needed to happen. There just can't really be a negative side to it, because all of a sudden we're creating more events, and it's not even us doing it. Yeah, we've added 2 more to the calendar for this year, but all of a sudden we've generated an extra 20% of events that would never have been on this calendar if we hadn't made this announcement. So
yeah,
it's I'm excited. I just want to get to Premier League pool and start getting it going. And you know, I want to fly over to the Derby City for that 9-ball event, because I want to see who wins it, because they're going to get that ranking point, they're going to get that prize money added to the schedule, and then all of a sudden Derby's going to finish and our rankings are going to start to form. All of a sudden there's a talking point throughout the year to finally see where they can come into those different events.
Yeah, there's so much to look forward to. So one I know you're really looking forward to as well, and something we announced during the US Open was the UK Open. And I've already had people ask me about entries and everything like that. So let me get this right. It's this Friday, 2 p.m. UK time. Entries in will open this Friday, 2 p.m. Matchroompool.com, entry $250. I mean, that's open to anyone really, isn't it, Emily?
Literally, you and me can pick up. I mean, it's probably a little bit. I don't think I'd be allowed to play, but I've had a few snooker players message me saying, "Oh, I'm hearing about this UK Open. Can we play?" Of course you can play. Anyone can play as long as you sign up in time.
Yep.
But I don't think we're going to struggle with 256 players. I think we're going to sell this out. And so we wanted to, obviously there was so much information that went out yesterday, and we wanted to, obviously the whole reason behind this announcement was to be clear and transparent. So we put out all of our information to back that up. And we didn't want the US Open, the UK Open to get lost within our announcement, but we're going to open entries on Friday. I think it's going to go, I mean, it's $250 to sign up, and it's a guaranteed $200,000 prize money, regardless of who signs up. So we're already making those commitments. I mean, look at just the Matchroom events for this year. It's $1.7 million. We're guaranteeing these prize money. The World Pool Championship, 325. The US Open, 300. The UK and the European Open, 200. And what you'll start to see is the entry fees are decreasing. So now the European and the UK are at a $250 entry. The US Open has dropped from 1,000, and the World Pool Championship is $500. So what we're trying to do is obviously increase the prize money and take away the entry fees. So it's all about, his prize money is fantastic. It's just, I can't wait for the UK Open. I mean, I'm slightly scared and nervous about it because I think we're going to see a different kettle of fish. There's going to be snooker players turning up. There's all of the international players are coming in for this event. It's going to be great. The final 2 days of the event will be live on Sky Sports with a Sky Sports production, which is great. Sky Sports only have the production for the Mosconi Cup, and they obviously have a different take on things, which I love. We get new ideas from them as well. And so then taking the 2 final days of this production is fantastic.
Well, that is so much to look forward to. And Niels, just to finish on you there, just someone who's been around for quite a while, even though you're a very fresh-faced man. But I mean, it just shows that even, you know, we can all say it, but this is clear. We're doing it. Paul is really coming to the forefront now.
Yeah, let's see how this year is going to unfold. You know, it's very exciting. It's going to be a long year, a lot of events, and hopefully some more being added, like Emily says, Kremlin Cup maybe. That's a 10-ball event, so they got to make some moves, switch to 9-ball. Yeah. Maybe some USA events. There's some more big events coming in Europe, I know. So I know Emily speaks to everybody. So I don't think it's going to stay with, what is it now, 15? I'm thinking at springtime, I'm thinking it's going to be 20 events around, something like that.
There was one point when it was just our 8 events, and I'm not going to lie, I've wanted to just sit in the corner and cry, because I thought, oh my gosh, we can't announce this with 8 events, because it's challenging for people to come on board with this. You're going to be skeptical. And I think what we saw was that we had the supporters of, obviously, of Diamond Billiards and Pat Fleming, and then we had the Euro Tour coming on with the support of the WPA. And we knew that this was a good chunky schedule to start with. And the aim is now the next 2 weeks to even fill that up even more to get the excitement going further. So those, yeah, oh God, I can't wait.
Yeah, well, we can't wait either. Niels, thanks so much for joining us. We hope to hear from you throughout the year. Get your questions in. I'm sure for our next episode of Loose Paul, if you do have any additional questions, email on our platforms at Matchroom Paul, and we'll answer them for you in our next podcast. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on a very special day of Loose Paul and a very special day on the Paul calendar. But for now, thanks for joining us and goodbye.